turned out to be completely unreliable assholes.
Hello, Tim.
Well, hello, Ryan. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm excited, as always, to be here and talk to you about a horror film. That's why we're doing it. That's what we're doing here. So I better be excited.
Tasty.
Do you say tasty because of this week's film?
Yep.
Great. Well, first, to introduce the show, for anyone who doesn't know, this is Dismembering Horror, the podcast show where myself, Ryan McDuffie,
and myself, Tim Aslin.
That's him. That's us. We dismember a horror film every week, in fact. And that, what does it mean to dismember a horror film? It means we watch a film that's horror, that we haven't seen for a while, or just excited to talk about, that we got from some top list. We're trying to see ones that scratch a certain itch, either are good or, as I said, scratch a certain itch. We love it when you recommend a film for us to watch, and we break down what worked for us, what did not work for us, and anything we found interesting or noteworthy as a talking point, as a factoid, whatnot, anything that doesn't fit into those prior categories.
Yeah.
But we are by no means saying we are any authority. We just have fun watching these movies. What? And since we're filmmakers ourselves, we kind of find it helpful to kind of catalog these by those exact categories. What worked, what didn't work for us.
Yeah. And
to hopefully spur your own opinionation where you're yelling at us or in agreement or disagreement. Both are great.
Well.
And Tim, I want to jump right into this movie because you were excited to watch the stuff.
God, was I ever.
Why were you excited to watch the stuff?
Well, I mean, the poster alone kind of just makes me be like, fuck yeah. Well, this is going to be ridiculous. But also knowing that it's Larry Cohen, and like based on what you had talked about in whatever episode that was about King Cohen, and right? King Cohen?
Yeah.
The documentary on him. And it just got me excited about that style and era of filmmaking because it's I knew it would be kitschy and ridiculous and, you know, crazy. Which
is always interesting.
And it was.
Yeah, for you it's like you either like those things or strongly don't like those things. And it's really interesting to know what that line is for you. It's like those adjectives you just said, as I said, strong opinion one way or the other. So whatever makes it click for you versus when it doesn't, I think is really interesting.
Well, I know just generally one thing that makes it click is if it's going to be absurd and ridiculous and over the top, if it is going at a fast pace, I'm way more forgiving of the stupidity or the lack of story or whatever the things that I generally really hold valuable. Mm-hmm. If it's just barreling through and right off the bat is sort of eschewing any sort of rules, I'm in. I'm okay with it.
That was definitely the opening of this. Yeah.
If it's kind of self-serious and then also doing these things, but also plotting or whatever, I'm like, ugh.
Was that Evil Ed for you?
Yes. Yeah. Where I'm just like, what are we doing?
Right.
The fuck are we doing? But if every scene in Evil Ed was him throwing a head into a garbage can like it's a basketball, I'd be like, yeah, I get what this movie is.
The standout moment.
Right.
For me, I think it all comes down to where is the filmmaker coming from? This guy, Larry Cohen, you just see an utter love of movies, come through, I think, his movies. And that's, I don't know, and I gotta define it further because that's not always a good thing because to use Evil Ed as an example again, clearly they're coming from a place of a love of movies, but it's not, I don't know, it's how maybe it's the Evil Ed, they needed to put their own stamp on things more versus just being pure stuck in homage or tribute.
Yeah, during watching the stuff, I thought of Evil Ed, and I kind of thought to myself, I think Evil Ed thinks it's doing what the stuff did, and it's failing.
There's such a vision of just like how Larry Cohen like views the world via how he views what he thinks movies are. You know, what he's interested in films, and just as equally what he isn't interested in, just really makes it so it feels like no one else could have made this movie. And I think that's maybe the distinguishment for me.
Yeah, that's cool. Well,
let's get into it even more.
What do we need to do?
First, we watch the trailer.
Oh,
so
I can't wait.
here's the trailer for, so we've already been talking about it, from 1985, The Stiff.
No! Don't eat that. I saw it moving in the refrigerator.
Here, Jason. Take some.
There is something alive in there.
They're good for us, Jason. They kill the bad things inside us.
Must be a side effect of eating too much dessert.
It's gonna kill you all!
Hey, wait. We are not alone.
Tonight, America is in grave danger.
So are you prepared to say on the air that you've actually seen people devoured by the stuff?
Oh, hell yes. And what's worse, I've seen what's left of them when the stuff gets through and comes back out.
I think that trailer supports what I read, that New World Pictures wanted more of a straight horror film and didn't know what to do when they received this like tongue-in-cheek satire comedy. And the trailer would reflect that it seemed way more like they were trying to package it as a straight horror film.
Yeah. Can you? Yeah. I mean, what difference does it make?
Yeah.
Like,
it's not what
like
we wanted.
that. The stuff as a horror film, like the whatever you would call that, the cliched version or cliched movie version of the stuff as a horror film is not better than,
well, it's just, you know, that what I mean? It's like, already been done. Like it's the Blob, it's Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Exactly. Yeah.
So why not just have its own unique spin on it?
Yeah. I don't think it's not a horror film either.
No,
I know what you're saying.
Yeah,
like they're trying to fit into a particular lane.
Yeah. Why even bother? We love it for what it is. I did.
Yeah.
There's my rating. Not buy it. I gave this a hearty rent it. Not a hearty, I wouldn't say hearty rent it. It was... There's just something that's so fun about it, I think, and something, as I said, like anything that's so unique as far as I couldn't see anyone else making this. There's nothing that quite scratches this particular itch. I like love it for all that, and get really into it when I'm watching it, and like really appreciate the delivering of promises of the premise. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's always fun, whether it's just because of the actors or the perfectly placed moment. But I just, at the same time, I don't feel like I need to see it more than every 10, 15 years, if that, you know. But if you haven't seen it, or if you're just happen to be in the mood now that I, you know, know better what it is, I've just seen it once before, probably again, like 10, 15 years ago. I think it holds a place.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, if you're going to watch one Larry Cohen movie, I feel like this is it. This is the best of what I've seen.
Nice.
So it's like, you get it. You see this.
This, you know, this movie really feels for me like it's very close to Evil Dead 2 in like my enjoyment of the moments. And because of that, I almost want to say I would buy it specifically to put it on during parties.
Yeah, that's always that's a litmus test for you in a lot of ways.
Yeah, because like,
or not a litmus test, but a possibility you see always.
Yeah, maybe I just want to have more parties.
You want to have a Halloween party with them, as in playing Halloween.
Yeah,
and you want to have the Hexen party.
Hell yeah,
and now a stuff party.
Yeah, just have it on in the background. Maybe what I really need is to own like a bar that's like horror themed bar.
Yeah,
and just has all these movies playing all the time. the reason I say that partially is because the movie is so kind of, I mean, there is a story and everything, but who gives a shit?
Exactly. And how refreshing is it?
Right. And so, like, just scene to scene, and this to my prior point at the top of, like, the pace of it, it's just go. The whole thing is just go. Like, go, go, go. It doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
So, like, I love the idea of it just being on, and when you look at the screen, chances are you're going to do what I did about 1,000 times during the movie and go, oh, shit!
Or, what the?
Whoa!
Yeah.
Which I love. And so it's just such a, like, perfect sort of zone of kitsch to me that it's, like, it's exciting and evocative and joyful.
Yeah.
And so that's the type of thing, because it's not I don't think it's a movie to sit down and really, like, it's not a thinker, you know, no. Like you just enjoy it.
It's so refreshingly not a thinker too. Right. It's like the moment you try, it says, just stop, just enjoy this. Just like get over having to make sense out of things. Yeah. It's a nice place to be put in.
So I guess my caveat is, like, if this was, you know, $12 or something, I'd probably just be like, yeah, okay.
It got a
snag it.
Blu-ray release, I think, in like 2011, 12. So,
see, I would not spend, like, the other day I was in line at the grocery store, and Shazam Blu-ray was, like, at the counter of, like, a movie to buy, and it was $29.95, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah, the new releases will be like that a lot.
Holy shit. So it's like, no way would I pay that, but, like, I'd pay half that for this movie probably.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm going to say I'm a buy.
Great. That makes me happy that it lived up to your hat pull.
You know what it also reminds me a little bit of is some of the really good moments from Day of the Dead and Dawn of the Dead, the original. Mm-hmm. It's just lives in this sort of realm of, like, it's ridiculous.
It's like the kind of the fun of the characters and the casting. I can see that.
Yeah. And I don't, it may be I'm suffering maybe a little bit of nostalgia of the era and how, like you could basically, in my opinion, you could kind of production value and, like, look and tone and feel and all of that, put this up against an episode of Miami Vice. You know what I mean? Like, not great.
What
but,
an
like,
episode of Miami Vice that would be. Like, they
would be
team
amazing.
up with this guy.
But, like, just having them on a boat at the beginning, it just feels kind of like that weird. It's like he's making fun of that.
Men in suits meeting on a boat.
Yeah.
In New York.
Espionage.
Yeah.
And shit like that. It's cool. So, yeah, there you go.
Great. All right. Next section is our summary. So what exactly happened in this film?
I mean, it's just so full of intrigue.
Yeah.
It's a conspiracy.
Evil, corporate plot.
Sure. Well, and so can we clarify, because I'm not sure, is it an alien? Is that for sure what the stuff is?
Well, one of the things I liked about it is it's intentionally vague.
Yeah, somebody calls it, I think the colonel at the end when he's on the radio says it's an alien, but, like, he's not reliable.
No, that's
he doesn't
just
know what
like
the fuck he's talking about.
Wait, what was that we watched where the guy kept accusing people of being, you alien this, you alien that?
Oh my God, what was that?
He was freaking out. What was that?
Oh, it was Society, wasn't it?
Right, yeah. Where that's how I read it, where it's just like, it's cool and it's actually gets, for as kitschy as it all is, the actual story.
Yeah.
It gets at something kind of disturbing or works in a horror sense of, like, it is just the stuff. Don't try to pick it apart more than that. So it is merely stuff that
came out of the ground,
that they find in the ground. And because of what do you do when you find something coming out of the ground? You taste it. And
oh my God, that just by itself, like, that's our opening. Some dickhead walking up to shit that is bubbling. It's white shit bubbling out of the ground, and he fucking tastes it. Tastes it.
And it says,
can you imagine?
Here, bud, you try this.
And then that guy is like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. And then we immediately jump to, they've already turned it into, like, a factory, and It's being sold in stores.
Yeah, what do you think, like, the time has passed? It is everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's maybe a couple years later at best?
I mean, I like to think it was 2 months kind of thing, you know, in Larry Cohen's
Took the nation
world.
by storm.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
And then it's just kind of, then we have our
Mo.
chill yet hard-headed, protagonist.
Southern guy.
Mo Rutherford. David Mo Rutherford. Why is he called Mo, Tim?
Why is he Lindsey Graham? That's what I want to know.
But what does he always say?
Oh, he says, what's his real name? David? He goes, my name's David, but my friends call me Mo because every time I get money, I just want Mo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or he says anytime he gets
I get
anything,
something he likes.
Yeah, which connects to the theme in the film.
That's right.
Enough is never enough. The stuff.
Clearly. So, so it's his... I mean, the story is that he is hired as he's a former FBI agent who now just does...
corporate espionage.
Yeah, freelance corporate espionage.
He's trying to figure out, like, what the ingredients are in the stuff.
Because an ice cream company has hired him.
And then so he's on that trail, and meanwhile, we have a little kid who... After seeing, I guess he's the only one who sees the stuff and like moving or having some kind of like intelligence behind it. He freaks out. He's the one person in the world who bears witness to that and actually freaks out, apparently.
Right.
So he immediately just starts...
he's on a rampage.
Yeah, he's on a rampage, just knocking them off shelves. Don't eat that! Don't eat that!
Yep.
And then
Jason is his name,
Jason,
right?
yeah. So David and Jason team up, and then there's... Is it Nicole is the ad exec?
She's the branding exec. She's the one who has created the brand of the stuff and marketed it and like shoots the commercials and all of that. And, Mo has tracked her down to sort of try and get an in, and then they fall in love miraculously, instantaneously. Mm-hmm. He is so charming. Maybe that's why he's Southern. That Larry just was like, how do we justify this? I don't think Larry ever has said the words, how do we justify this? But in his subconscious, he was like, make him Southern, and then everything's fine.
He's put him in his movie Q that became before this, The Winged Serpent, and then used him afterwards too. So he was kind of like his go-to guy. He just likes him.
That's great.
Yeah, Michael Moriarty.
Yep.
Who I knew,
certainly recognizable. I don't know what I know him from.
I know him from the first Troll.
Okay. Great.
He's the dad in Troll 1.
Holy shit, he's Harry Potter?
Yeah, he plays Harry Potter.
That's right. With his stupid little hat.
Yeah.
Oh shit. That's funny. Yeah, what a dope he is in that. Cool. He's such a cool dude in this one.
I mean,
he's all smooth, and
we just all aspire to be exactly like him.
He's wearing real shit cowboy boots.
Punches people out of nowhere.
Yeah, don't cross him. You'll get a fucking
and then
mouthful of Mo fist.
So we got David, Nicole, and the kid Jason.
Yeah,
or sorry, Mo. For a little bit, it's a little buddy comedy with Chocolate Chip Charlie.
That section is amazing. Yeah, he's a former chocolate chip maker guy,
mogul,
yeah, whatever you call it, like cookie guy. And he's tracking down the stuff too because it's competition. He wants to figure out what the fuck.
So that's kind of the oddball bunch. Eventually, we get joined by like a general, Colonel Malcolm Gromit Spears.
Right.
Anyway, we got this motley crew. They got to overthrow the stuff factory, and they do it. Great. All right.
Yeah. There's not much else to it. It's sort of a series of the journey to that, moment of blowing up the factory.
Yeah. People die along the way from the stuff.
Man. So I guess it is important too to say that like the effect that the stuff has, the actual threat, not the plot threat, but the actual threat is that the stuff effectively eats out your insides.
Eats you out from the inside, yeah.
And then, before leaving your body, which I think it sort of inevitably does, but maybe not.
Or kind of when...
Just out of necessity.
Yeah, I don't know. They possess you,
but
basically.
They possess you, yeah. They, like, take over your brain.
Yeah, to basically
or
be
it takes over your brain.
Stuff-craving kind of, almost like what we think of... I don't know, the phrase TV zombies...
Yeah.
Is what I think of. Like, not zombies you'd see on TV, but the idea of, like, you're zombified from your TV.
Right. You're single-minded.
Yeah.
And,
the fear of, like, being in the masses. That's why it's kind of the body snatcher influx I see. It's fun. It's actually really fun.
Yeah, what do you call that? You become an automaton.
Yeah.
Is that how you say that?
Automaton.
Automaton. Yeah. That word.
Yeah, we get a ton of automatons.
That's right. Jesus.
All right, should we do what worked?
Yeah.
All right, what worked?
What worked for you? What worked for you?
It worked like a charm.
Smith. What worked? What worked for you?
Okay, I'm trying to think in like broad terms.
Oh my god!
Still, because like it is fun to define some context for Larry Cohen too. Maybe we should have mentioned. He's known for being an incredibly fly by the seat of his pants director, filmmaker.
You are blowing me away here.
Wait, what?
I can't believe that that's true.
Right. So not just in like his not, his disinterest in maybe typical like A to B plotting making sense.
Sure.
But it is literal like how he assembled the film, the way he just kind of would be a sort of hard-headed, fast talker, yet endearing and good-hearted and genuine and just wanting to make films and loving films. So getting films made, like he did a first one about J. Edgar Hoover, like in the 70s, that he like with no permit squirmed his way in, however, to shoot in these like official government buildings, like Justice Department and stuff like that. No permission whatsoever. And then for Q, the Winged Serpent, this is my favorite. This is the example I always remember. To shoot on like the Chrysler building with like guards shooting at this the Winged Serpent, the dragon. Rather than spending all the money on stunt people who like and getting the permission to put people on the sides of the buildings, he just like paid off like the actual window washers who are already there since they already had permission to be the ones to like hold these guns and shoot out.
Why don't you just fucking like lean out a window and be like, hey, I'll give you $50 to hold this gun real quick.
Probably.
Amazing.
Well, he's probably, he plans it just enough where he's like, all right, so when's your guy's next shift, and like works there. All right, so can you take, I'll give you $100, take half an hour, just get these shots.
Wow. That is hilarious.
Just I wanted to give that little bit of context.
Well, and it shows because part of, I guess kind of what I'm saying, it's amazing that it works, but it does work that like every scene is just sort of like blaze through and on to the next thing. Like there's very little sort of like nuance in the transitional aspect of any moment of this movie. I was always just like, whoop, we're over here now.
Right. And I was asking Tim a lot through this, like, wait, how did he learn about the kid? Oh, he read about them in the newspaper. Oh, I don't remember. Oh, okay. It doesn't matter.
It is so fucking just like, you better keep up or don't worry about it.
Right. And then so I just wouldn't worry about it. But that's what I really worked for me about it is because Larry Cohen does not care at all about these things. I don't care. And that's fun to get caught up in. Like what you said at the beginning of just like from the get-go, these guys trying the stuff straight out of the ground. And like in another movie that could be really, really distracting of just like, oh, that totally breaks the reality. No, it functions as get on board, guys.
Yes. It completely gives you the sense of like, it's, I always use this as an example of a movie in a movie in your opening scene, you set the absurdity. You say this is the world.
Yeah.
And the movie that always comes to mind when I think of this sort of tool is it's not a good movie, but it's G.I. Joe: The Rise of Cobra. And in the opening scene of that fucking movie, you've got like the Channing Tatum and I can't remember. It's one of the Wayans. I think it's Marlon Wayans. And they're if I remember right, it doesn't really matter who's in the opening scene. What happens is that Army fighter pilots go up against a like super jet. And in that scene, the super jet stops in midair and turns around and shoots missiles at it. Hovering. It's going like super fast, and then it stops and turns around and shoots. And it's like, oh, this is a world where a super jet can do that.
Yeah.
All right. So now I've set my sort of my baseline of absurdity.
And
then you're on board. Like if you're like, this is ridiculous, then don't watch the rest of the movie.
I mean, that actually is similar to this film as far as like the kind of logic that example you just gave in this film follow for me is the like, you are a kid playing with your action figures telling a story.
Totally.
And that's what was, I think, on a deeper level, what works for me about this stuff and that kind of filmmaking is an adjective I think I read in a review of the stuff that I thought got at this deeper what's working about it is free form is the feel of it.
Yeah.
Like I love that idea too. Like, they almost seem like warring approaches as far as how do you get the movie to be what the movie's trying to be. But just the idea of that approach is kind of fun and refreshing rather than something that has to be like distilled and redraft and redraft. You just kind of, you find the first scene and then you just kind of are off to the races.
I agree. It certainly has that feel, but there's no question that it's well thought out.
Yeah, the scene, absolutely.
Like, there is clear story threads throughout.
Things are thought out, well thought out. Aspects are well thought out.
Yeah, I mean, broad story things are thought out for sure.
The markers are there. But
it's like, here's an example. It's like picking and choosing what matters to the director or to the audience to be shown.
Yeah.
And so a good example is, when Mo meets Nicole and they have their little flirtation and it goes from 0 to we're gonna fuck tonight in like a split second. And you just go, oh, okay. Like, I guess that's where we are now. Like, he's so charming that she couldn't resist, and now like the last line of that scene is, my limousine's outside, and he goes, I bet mine's bigger than yours. It's like, we get it. Then we're on to the next thing.
Yeah.
The next time we see Nicole, we've forgotten that she existed. We haven't seen her in like a half hour.
Apparently there's a lot that was cut from the film.
Right. Yeah. This is sort of my point. It's like you just go, well, fucking, we don't need all that shit. And then we're right. The next time we see her, she's with Mo walking down the street like they've just gotten out of his apartment, I guess. Like they've been banging.
They're all of a sudden
they're together. They're like, and we never saw any of that. Who cares? It doesn't matter. It's like, you can tell that Larry just sort of was like, trim the fucking bullshit.
It was actually
just pop.
New World Pictures who said, well, we want it
really?
more. Yeah. But I think it's, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's to this point of like, get on with it.
Well, yeah, as far as I think another way that manifests for me that free form approach or whatever really is just like in the acting style, and you can see in the sort of scene to scene directing style that, I don't know, I find it's really fun where you can see they're acting in such a way where it's like even the first take could be the take.
Yeah.
Like
it's loosey-goosey acting.
And it's fun.
In the best way. Like, you just feel like they're like, okay, let's just fuck around for a minute.
Because they're good actors, or at least like really good as fun as character actors, especially. Yeah. So just to see them kind of hit these different beats and bring like a quote unquote naturalism to it, of just whether a line repetition or pausing or a certain look that they play off of, where it's just fun to see like good actors, or at least, entertaining actors play into that in a way you don't often see if you're really just trying to get a take a certain way.
Yeah. Well, there's an easy breeziness to everybody.
Yeah, freeform.
Yeah, and like, in a way, it feels to me like the directing was, hey man, do your version of it. Like, that's very sort of like, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to tell you what's going on.
Yeah.
And just let yourself take whatever you want to take from that and do your thing, and let's see what that is.
Yeah, it's putting that trust in the actor just to like
It's
have
really
fun. It'll be great.
Yeah, it's
it'll be
quite
great.
nice
I love
to watch.
You.
Yeah. Because everybody's just kind of present, and they're kind of like, yeah, this is nice. Like, we're not so fucking like constricted by like, you got to get this and you got to say this here and you got to hit this mark and you got to get, it's like, it's free of that, it seems. And I mean, maybe that's the case. I wasn't there, but like, it seems like that's sort of what they're doing. I think one part that I remember thinking like, ooh, this guy's like not a great actor. And then it turns out I was totally wrong, is when they go to the post office in the little small town that everybody has moved out of.
Oh, yeah.
And the first dude who they meet has run away into the woods, which is hilarious. But they go into the post office and there's an older dude there who's sort of got long, shaggy hair and he's acting cagey and whatever. At first, I'm like, ooh, this guy is not good. And then there's this moment of him being like, I gotta go to the back. And he's weird. And you realize, like, that's his version of I'm infected with the stuff and I gotta get out of here.
He gives
it's
that
not bad
double
acting.
take.
And then, yeah, exactly. He like... He gets to the door, looks over his shoulder. Door, looks over his shoulder like, and then like turns back to the door and then does it again, like double checks.
Wait, was it so much like,
good?
Haha, I'm up to something. It was like, are they watching me? It was that very like, am I being followed? And
it's
just
such a Scooby-Doo moment to me, and I love it.
That's where I say you see Larry Cohen's love of film. You see him doing these very obvious like film tropes, but they're like caught up in this sort of like almost Swamp Thing, like, you know, B-movie world.
Right. Yeah, and yeah, exactly. But for some reason, it doesn't feel like an episode of the A-Team.
No, it makes it feel like, yeah, because A-Team is still grounded, or is at least attempting to be.
It's trying to, yeah.
Yeah, this, it embraces the pulpiness because of the story at play, too. So, like, to have a guy just do this super obvious double take because Larry Cohen has seen it in other movies, like, it just works.
It does. I mean, I have to, can you stay on broader things? All I want to do is talk about, like, little moments, but... You must have more.
No, I mean, I don't think. I mean, stuff that maybe is mid-tier then gets more specific in the examples. Yeah. So maybe you'll have some examples have out for these broader things I like.
Okay. Yeah.
So, like I wrote in a lot of things, there is something just so fun about. So there is something just so fun about the effects of the deaths, like once they got hollowed out, when we have Chocolate Chip Charlie's like face bent all the way backwards with the white stuff coming out of his mouth.
Who did the fucking effects and makeup on this?
Wasn't Crazy Mad George as much as I wish it was.
It's so fucking good. It's just so, well, first of all, the whole idea of like punching somebody and them being hollow.
Yeah.
And
right, that one punch.
Holy fuck. It's crazy. It's really disturbing.
Well, it reminds me
also,
yeah.
It's like a lot of the things in this movie that just make me go, whoa, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, what?
It's horrific, though. Yeah.
I love it. It's really disturbing.
And then just the effects is too, as far as like they do the rotating room effect for like the stuff en masse, like
that looks amazing.
Yeah, like what would you say? It's spitting itself at like at someone, you know, against the wall, like kind of blobbing people. Oh, all that stuff was so fun. Oh, the stuff.
And even the kitschiness of like when it jumps on your face, it's so clearly just a piece of rubber that they had you grab
right
and
when he's
put on your
wrestling
face.
with it on his face.
Yeah.
Rah!
It doesn't matter though. I don't know why it doesn't matter.
It's that kind of scene as makes me think when you said like Evil Dead 2 with the hand attacking him.
Yes.
Where it's just Michael Moriarty with a piece of white stuff on his face flipping out.
Right. It's so funny to me because by and large, I despise quote unquote campiness. Like it usually makes me roll my eyes and just go, this is dumb. But I don't know what the distinction is and why it's okay in certain films.
That's why I started off asking you exactly that.
Like, why? But Evil Dead definitely does it. And I know we talked about camp, and my reference was Evil Dead. It works in that for some reason. I don't remember what I said. But it works in this, I think, because of what we said. Like, you set up that world and you stick to it. Mm-hmm. And you're not bringing in camp or bringing in slapstick in moments. The whole movie exists on that plane. And so you're just okay with it. I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
And then, like we said, the setup of it primes you to be okay with it for the rest of the movie. That's important for sure.
Yeah. I thought there was something just so fun about the stuff itself as this white, drippy marshmallow entity.
It's pretty gross.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. Like, why is it gross? It just is like whipped cream.
That is what it is. It's innocuous enough, but there's something that I think here, maybe this will be our segue. There's a lot as far as just I have like the different aspects of satire that it's hitting or what it's satirizing, you know, and there's something so satisfying across the board about this simple premise, like working to evoke whatever satire does. And like the one as far as it being just white stuff is just the idea of it's maybe this ties into like how like the marketing and branding aspect, but how like this what largely inspired the film for Larry Cohen was how all the unhealthy processed food everyone eats and is marketed a certain way. Like, yeah, when you process food that much to make Coca-Cola or marshmallow candy, whatever it is stuff. It's not like,
and it's
food.
Also stripped away of anything like nutritious.
Yeah.
So the idea of going in that direction of like, it's just white. It's void of anything worthwhile at that point.
Exactly.
I think, and it's like, I just think of like, enriched flour. It's like enriched with what? You took away everything that's nutritious. Why is the word enriched?
So then we just
like, that's fucking
add
nuts.
Fortified vitamin K back into it, and all of a sudden it's good for us again. Like,
but then it's white.
Yeah,
and like this idea of, I mean, I think the broader sort of context of Western whiteness is kind of intense to think about, because this, white is good, black is bad kind of construct that in particular film has used for a long time.
Yeah, maybe it's effective because we know the white is bad,
Exactly.
Actually.
Yeah, I think there's something to that. It's pointing at that stuff, and I think that's cool to kind of be like, this idea of purity is fucking bullshit.
Yeah, that it comes pure. They don't have to process it at all.
Right.
Yeah.
And in any context, the quote unquote idea of purity is bullshit. Like there's no fucking purity. It's a bullshit term. Like purity. There's no such thing as purity. Like what does that even mean? Right? It's a construct.
I mean, we know what it means in certain contexts.
Yeah, but it doesn't really exist.
Yeah.
Like it certainly doesn't exist in nature. It's like pure. Like what is pure?
I mean, again, in context, like eating a zucchini versus eating the stuff. Like, well, no. So what you're saying is the stuff is pure stuff.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's not a thing.
Yeah. Everything is what it is.
Right.
Everything is inherently pure.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. Anything you eat has multitudes within it.
Yeah.
right? Bacteria, yeast, fucking whatever. It has nutrition or not, vitamins, minerals. Like it's all made up of things that are, you know, valuable or not. Mm-hmm. But you strip all of that away, and what are you left with? Stuff.
And that's what's I love too, like the satire of marketing, like how they put these good. Like 80s go-go girls, like they come up with the jingle, they come up with the packaging, and it's like, oh god, it's so satisfying and smart, because also how they show like they have a stuff, you know, store, as in a stuff fast food restaurant.
Yeah, like a Dairy Queen or some shit.
Between like a McDonald's and something else.
KFC, I think. Yeah.
It's like too perfect.
Dude, the idea too that everybody has just bought it wholesale and does not know what's in it is amazing, because that concept is so, it has such a bigger implication. Yeah, you could apply that to just the psychology of humans. You could apply it to government. You can apply it to, you know, wars.
I think that applies to
like cults. It's buying into a thing without scrutinizing it is such a fucking intense idea.
It's a cognitive dissonance, which I brought up before when talking about food, of just like, I don't, you know, the way we look at, like, completely disassociate where that burger came from, right? Or where this, or again, if it's super processed, like what Coca-Cola even is, doesn't matter, because
it's really good at cleaning chrome. Like what? What?
But it's like we put it so we have little kids drinking it, or put it like in a glass bottle before a movie, or, you know, fill it with ice, just all that branding, but just look at it just for what it is without that branding for once. That's why I think I was just so fascinated and loved that aspect of the satire and the critique is here.
It's so good.
They're like that there's this woman who specializes it too, that she's a character, and that's like, okay, so we're acknowledging that all of this has nothing to do with what the stuff is actually offering. It's just pure branding. Well, that's what people are eating.
Yeah, and she's a smart character to have in there, to be she's, in a way, she's the audience going, oh my god, I can't believe I bought into this. Mm-hmm. And I have a moral obligation to right that wrong. Like, I fucked up. Like, that's a rare mentality, I think, not just in characters, but like we as humans, I think, often resist, you know, looking at things that way, or accept or giving up our pride to say that we are wrong and we fucked up and we should do something about it to right that wrong. Like that's an important voice to have in the context of a satire like this, where you are pointing at these bigger, broader things, and then having a character be like, yeah, just so everybody knows, like, the point of view still exists that we fucked up.
Yeah.
And we should maybe do something about it. It's not just left up to the themes of the movie to say that. There's a character literally saying it.
Yeah. Well, there's all sorts of ways where, like, we think, oh, that's just it's fun that this exists in the movie because, like I said before, the promise of the premise, you know, it works because of that. But I mean, to then break down and think about why something's working, like, I loved a couple things about the sort of end note, not when they destroyed the factory, but how when they confront the corporate guys and force them to eat the stuff.
Right.
Remember, it's such a nice touch that they say, well, we've rebranded it and now we're only using 12% stuff.
Yeah.
It's like as if...
Yeah, somehow that's okay.
Yeah, somehow that's okay. It's also the, you know, even though we've seen that the stuff is clearly bad, I mean, the theme in a nutshell, like their slogan, enough is never enough.
So
you know, brilliant. These corporate guys got to get more, and more. I
mean, the commentary on just sort of greed and consumerism and corporatism, if that's a word that I just made up, is so, it's just fucking crazy that this is, how many years ago?
85.
35 years ago almost?
Yeah.
same shit's going on still. It hasn't changed. It's probably gotten worse in some respects.
Yeah, films like this are satire so important.
Yeah.
Gives us some kind of baseline. And then we have that's I thought was so great that they're what was the term in drugs? I was trying to think. They're cutting it, you know.
Oh, sure.
With real ice cream.
Yeah.
But then it says the black market is still selling like the real OG stuff. So what I loved about that, and I think is maybe if we're putting it in a modern context too, I think a really important takeaway why satire is powerful. The fact that it's still selling on the black market says that these corporate entities, they are not the problem. They are merely pawns in like they're exploiting an aspect of the problem. Well, the kind of capitalism that is just only for the GDP,
right.
Like that is that. Then you know, people if there are people who just go, oh well, that's how it is. So that they're devoid of what's right or wrong. They're just seeing it as,
that's right.
Oh no, but this is how it is. So this is why we're doing it.
So that's actually a good kind of way of like, I've started using this term corporatism as opposed to capitalism, because I don't think capitalism it's sort of it's a concept, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's very broad too. You could do capitalistic things and not be a piece of shit,
right?
And not ruin the world,
right? But I do agree. We have it. Yeah.
Corporatism as a term, I think gets more to the point of this idea that you're speaking to.
Yeah.
This idea that like you're functioning in a capitalistic realm specifically to achieve one thing blindly.
Well, that's why I said capitalism's only worried about GDP.
Exactly.
Versus
yeah, that's a really
people.
good way of putting it. I would define that as corporatism.
Okay. But then what that does that they're selling it on the black market is I think it forces us to at least think about it on some level in terms of, okay, if it's not just these people that are simply profiteering off a pre-existing system, it's the fact that people want it at all. Like, you know, that is the real problem, the issue. Like,
yes.
That enough is never enough. Why for humans is enough never enough? They're like the black market's just serving that want. Like,
that's right.
You can't blame the people for their want. So you got to ask on a deeper level, why are people still craving stuff?
I have an answer. Because of loneliness.
A disconnectivity.
Right. And like loneliness being one of many aspects of that, right? Like the less connected we are to healthy and like positive things, the more we try to fill that
and each other.
Yeah, the more we try to fill that quote unquote emptiness that comes out of not being connected.
Well,
and
right.
I think this is the root of that thing. Why anybody goes after something that's, you know, potentially not good for them often is to fill this emptiness that they have.
I mean, you see that manifest a lot of ways, like just talking about
different ways.
The one that jumps at me, because before the show, you're reading this like Facebook thread between these two friends, off just having this inane argument that like is just so pointless. And I say it's so pointless and inane because they were only ever trying to attack each other.
Yeah.
And that is to me like a really, I don't know, I think important example of that kind of separateness you're talking about. At no point were they trying to find a commonality.
Right.
And that is part of that separateness.
Yeah, that culture, we live now in a world that has this culture around sitting, you know, at a keyboard or in front of a screen, whatever the screen is, and you have that distance from the people you're engaging with.
Yeah.
And that in itself is sort of creates an emptiness, and you're trying to fill it by interacting, but it's such a you're interacting in such a non it can be connective human
type
way.
Of interaction though, because like you can see, I don't know, like an example of just people geeking out over something geeky together, or
no, I agree. It's well, I guess what I'm saying is it's easy to fall into the sort of shadow side or the negative side of that type of interaction and just live there.
Well, I think it's because that it's more in like how, not so much how we feel when we're on it. I mean, that is an aspect, but I guess for what we're talking about, it's how like you view others. It's just sort of like that effect of being in a car and being so easy to scream at our fellow, our brothers and sisters. In that, with like a car, driving a car turns the nicest person,
right,
into a raving maniac. It's just that bit of, they are there. They like, I just see this little, their name's Winston and they have this profile picture and they said this thing, that I disagree with. And all of a sudden that just conjures like, Winston is just this emblematic of this thing that I hate. So I'm just going to do this Robert Downey Jr. eye rolling, gif at him.
Well, and the emboldenedness, feeling emboldened by that distance.
Yeah,
is its own weird, it's unhealthy in my mind.
Yeah, because it's trying to put you at some sort of like moral higher ground.
Right.
The important thing there being that it's still, you're separating yourself from these people you're disagreeing with, rather than trying to, I don't know, helpfully solve the problem.
Right.
By acknowledging what you share. Yeah.
I mean, all of this is to say, like, the movie is pointing at these very large sort of systemic societal issues that it's very easy to kind of slide into the realm of just get or take or have what you want right then.
Yep.
Right in this moment.
That's the slogan.
Don't stop and actually think and consider the ramifications.
Because what do they say? The stuff, it covers up your bad feelings or something like that.
Yeah, it's something
gets at that point.
It's almost that's that. Like in
it makes
the movie,
the bad feelings go away.
Yes, it made the bad feelings.
Which just made me think of like,
oh shit,
just alcohol, which is sugar. Just drugs, whatever. Binging, all that.
Right.
Anything.
Yeah.
That
like anytime
abused.
you're like, I'm feeling sad, so let me go eat a fucking bunch to feel better. It is, on its surface, doing what you're wanting it to do, right? Like, you're getting
caught up in this binging show.
It tastes good.
You aren't thinking about the sad things.
Momentarily. But almost none of these things have any sort of longevity in that, right? Yeah. And the stuff is sort of such a good metaphor for it because it is eating out your insides.
You're getting zero sustenance.
Right.
Merely sensory pleasure.
Right.
I love, leaving, just to dig in more, the examples of the heavy metaphor, like how it leaves them a literal empty shell of their former selves when they eat the stuff.
I love it. I fucking love it.
Covering up the
I
bad
love
feelings.
that they've become kind of not quite porcelain, but like they're the shell aspect of them. Like when a face or a body gets smashed, it cracks. It's not like skin doesn't do that, right? Like it's not hard like that. But in this case, it fucking is, which is really upsetting.
Well, it works because the stuff itself, it has a viscosity. What is that word? Well, you could imagine it kind of like drying out your insides.
Yes, exactly. Because it's fucking eating away everything that's worthwhile.
Yeah.
And you're left with literally just a shell of a person.
Yep.
Oh, it's so fucked up.
The slogan of the movie, not the jingle, the movie, are you eating it or is it eating you?
Yeah. I also think like I mean, I don't know how intentional this was or whatever, but it is certainly evocative that when the stuff tries to get out of you, your mouth, the thing that you used to ingest it, opens up over wide. It becomes this grotesque thing, and this it's just I think a kind of a cool reversal of the idea of consuming a thing.
Yeah.
In order for it to get out, like your mouth has to grotesquely open back up. It's it's just pointing at that thing of like the mouth is this, I don't know, this pathway.
Yeah.
It's really fucking gross and weird and cool looking.
Yeah, satisfying to when you have a symptom or the sort of disease itself being like this ravenous consumption, blind consumption, and then the result of that being that pathway getting perverted of that mouth, like the way I guess I get like the way when their mouth gets huge and it like kind of slowly vomits up stuff and like dribbles out.
Yeah, it's purged, but in like a really unpleasant way. I mean, not that purging isn't unpleasant always, but like it's that much more grotesque when it's slow.
Yeah, it's just that it's the perfect consequence to their ravenous appetite.
Oh, yeah. This movie is fucking ridiculous.
Yep. Yeah, that moment, Tim, why did that crack us up so much? Those 4 dudes running at them.
So many reasons. Okay, so first of all, Chocolate Chip Charlie and Mo, where have they just come from? They just came from the mail room.
I just
like
remember
the post office where the weird double take.
They're trying to get on a little boat.
I'm not even sure they're trying. They just luck into the boat. They're just still kind of looking around in the middle of the. It's like such a weird moment. They've run away, but I love it. It's set up so. It's such a fucking specific thing that they're walking along. There's a fence on their right, and they're walking along, and I don't know what Charlie says. But he says something like, oh no, here they come. Mm-hmm. And the shot is a shot of these dudes running who are backlit with long shadows in front of them carrying, axes and whatever. But they're behind them. But Charlie and Mo have not looked over their shoulders to know that anybody's behind them. How long have
these guys just been running like in the middle of the road at them?
There's a disjointedness to it that is so hilarious.
I think I'm trying to extrapolate what was so satisfying about it. Those things you said that they're like, okay, there they are all of a sudden, just this kind of like shock, but it's not shocking, but it's like surprising and you aren't sure, just in a tickling way.
Yeah.
A big part of it is just like,
well, they just appear too. It's just the like, it's so stark. It's just like,
well, it was kind of like when we got into certain movies where it feels like they're just casting like unknowns or just regular people or whatever, where there's just something, we just see it so much as like, oh, these you just gotta love the universe in this moment for bringing these 4 dudes together, and
they're lumbering in a weird. They're very not graceful.
Yeah.
But the cutting of it also, it's. I think a big part of why I like this movie is because so much of it is like these sharp left turns into just like a fist. You know what I mean? Where you're just like, you're forced on like an amusement ride. It's jolting you around. It's like the old school Haunted Mansion where it's like you're swinging around and then suddenly it's a left turn and then there's a thing that pops out at you. I like that vibe. It's just fun. Yeah. And it makes me constantly go, whoa, oh shit.
Right. It's kind of perfectly paced as far as anytime you're wanting something to happen, it happens and it's satisfying.
Yeah. It's like, like you cut to the stuff or you cut to the guy laying on the ground and it's like you don't have enough time to anticipate the thing that's about to happen. It's like a microsecond, but it's there.
Yeah.
And then it's coming out. It's like before you could go, oh no, I wonder if this is going to happen. It's already happening.
like Jason's kind of quick evolution from being suspicious of the stuff to like destroying all the stuff inside at the grocery store. But it's a good example of what you just said, because like all of a sudden he's just you're not expecting that soon. Like he doesn't go from like, I don't know, Mom, maybe you shouldn't be buying that, to just what is, he takes like a stick or a broom or something he finds
in the grocery store. Well, I mean, he even does it before in the kitchen. Yeah, where the brother is like, let me have some of that. And he's like, no, don't do it. And he just like grabs it and throws it against the wall and runs away. It's like, yes. And then, in the grocery store, I don't know. I don't think we see him take the broom from somebody, but or mop or whatever it is, but he's just in it.
Just like, okay.
Smashing shit.
Great. We're here.
I think it's cathartic too. It's like the idea of being like if you are around anybody who's doing something that's like harming themselves, even on a subtle way or just a pathological way, there is a part of you that just wants to slap them.
Yeah.
And I think this is sort of exercising that emotion of you just want to fucking...
I've found myself doing that in so many words to some friends sometimes, like asking for advice and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that urge.
You're like, no, come just...
I'll be like, dude, well, you just said this, so what did you do? Throw a shoe.
Yeah, exactly.
Enough is never enough. Enough is never enough. The stuff. What do I want to say about the kid? I don't know.
The blue eyes. Everybody's got freaky fucking light eyes.
That whole family. Oh,
everybody except for the Colonel, basically.
Yeah.
Well, and Charlie, like, I think those two have brown eyes. Everybody else has, like, unpleasantly, like...
Did that work for you? Was that a thing of note?
It works because it's so fucking eerie.
When you were talking about Jason destroying stuff in the house, just that whole stuff was fun about, like, him versus his family, and, like, the family is that very society-esque all of a sudden.
Yeah.
They're pod people, but in that way of, like... Oh, we're the upper middle class Wasby family. Why don't you just be exactly like us? Come on.
Also, I guess everybody's already kind of infected, but like right off the bat, we're met with dickhead dad.
Yeah, the dad.
Like every 80s dad in every movie we've seen from that era, the dads are just such pieces of shit.
Do you remember his name?
The dad's name?
Yeah.
No idea. Does he have a name?
I thought I recognized him from...
Oh, you mean the actor?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's familiar, but I don't...
I was wondering if he was the boyfriend in Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Oh my God, that'd be
remember.
interesting. I don't remember. Okay. Well, which Invasion of the Body Snatchers?
The 78
It's like 5 fucking versions of it.
The 78 one. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
I don't remember him.
Okay.
But yeah, he's familiar.
Super angry right off the bat, 80s.
Why are you so angry?
Yeah.
Why are you so angry at your kid? Your kid just... What do you think? Jason is 12?
Yeah.
Maybe 11?
That was, we were cracking up when he tells him, get him.
Get him!
Yeah.
Get him!
Yeah.
Jesus! Dad?
Use
fucking
physical
take
force
it easy.
to restrain him and
Why
keep
is
him
he
here.
so mad that Jason got up in the middle of the night? Like, if my kid... I don't have kids. My kid got up in the middle of the night, I'd be like, hey, buddy, is everything
Doesn't he
okay?
say something
He's like, what are you doing up? Get back in bed!
Yeah,
Get out of here! You little fuck!
Was he like, oh, if someone wasn't up making noise last night, like,
he's like
snooping around.
Yeah, instant shame. Like, what the fuck is going on?
Around that whole section of the film, too. Just is just a good example of just how it does these fun little things along the way that you couldn't do in any other movie. When he tries flushing it down the toilet and you're like, the stuff isn't going to want to get flushed down. And the toilet starts making like gurgly sounds and the stuff, you see it like still coming out of the toilet. Yeah, you can't flush me.
Also, the shaving cream, like...
That bit
is fucking hilarious.
Yeah, he's eating shaving cream.
Like, what a plan.
Yeah.
What a plan. And as you said it, I was like, I would never think he's like, Jason's taking one for the team.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, you ate shaving cream.
I thought it was a pretty good plan.
Ooh. It worked.
Yeah, he got out of there.
He got out. Mo showed up right in time.
Yeah, Mo showed up, exactly. Perfect timing.
There are some hilarious dumb moments, too. Like, just... when Mo and Nicole have shown up at the quarry... where the stuff is actually coming out of, and they're in the truck, and they pull up to a stop, and they're sort of in the trees or whatever. And they're like, we can't go any further, because they'll hear us. And then they pop out to a kind of a wide shot of where the truck has stopped. And it's just like a little patch of grass. There's no road there. There's trees behind them, but they had been moving forward. So it's like they just pulled the fucking truck up and acted like that's the place that they pulled up to.
It's a movie.
Stuff like that's just, it's literally going, I do not fucking care about the logic.
Yeah.
And because the whole movie has those moments, every one of them is actually pleasing.
Yeah.
It's not a mistake, right? Like in another movie where the scrutiny is high of like, get it right, make it logical, make everything make sense. You would see something like that and be like, ooh, like that's a fuck up. Why'd they do that? But in this, it's just like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That they did that.
The consistency.
Who gives a fuck?
Yeah. Yeah. Larry doesn't, so we don't, and we're all happy for it.
Well, and also when they come back, when Nicole comes back to the truck, they've just turned the truck around. It's in the same spot, but like facing the other way. Perfect. It's like, who cares? What the fuck ever? It doesn't matter.
We don't want them to have to stop and turn around, so.
Right. And it's probably just the case that like that's the angle that they could shoot these trees and like get the shot. So just use it.
Though I think we only briefly mentioned it, but just something so fun about Michael Moriarty and the whole colorful cast of characters. I don't know what else to say, but I just felt like it had to be said again. Like, just I think maybe kind of what we already touched on as far as like the acting style, where it's just like, yep, Larry's loves these people, loves these actors, and just lets them go up there and do their thing. And it's any part like, yeah, like it never totally dragged thanks to the actors. That's all.
Yes. Well, and also, I don't think how I can articulate this. In the way that Ash in Evil Dead is a play on a character archetype, he's not like Bruce Campbell is not the leading man archetype. He's just off of it.
Yeah.
And because of that, it works really well to use as the tool to point at, you know, the satire and the absurdity of that archetype. And then the humor comes out of him being left of center of that. Mm-hmm. And I think the casting in this is doing very much the same thing. Like Michael Moriarty, is that his name?
Yeah.
Michael? I don't know. Mo. So
Mo Rutherford.
Like that dude is not quite he's not James Bond, right? Like, and he's sort of playing a James Bond character, well, like, but he does have a presence, he does have charm, he's got the fucking tools, but he's just a little off center of that thing,
right? And
it allows him to kind of comment and be this other version of that in this the version in this world that works. Everybody seems to me like that.
Yeah, but I guess an interesting distinguishment between like them in this movie and Ash is you can tell like Sam Raimi's aware of that's what makes like Ash work.
Yeah.
And then here it's just again it's just like it doesn't seem like Larry Cohen's that's not an active intent. It's just like purely just I love these actors. I'm letting them go.
Well,
it's a different type of endearing, but it both is endearing.
I think I would speculate that what's going on is that Larry is fitting those archetypes the way he sees them into the way he sees this world. So even on a subconscious level, Michael Moriarty is the James Bond in Larry's world.
Yeah, exactly. That's what's so endearing about it.
Right?
Yeah.
That's who he thinks would fit into this world as that character. He's not actively like going after that.
Yeah. See, I don't see
necessarily. I don't think it's a thought, you know.
He and the movie don't seem too aware or even concerned about them being left of center, as you put it.
Right.
Like, no.
But that's just who he gravitates toward.
This is Larry Cohen's leading man.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly.
Yeah. It's fun.
Yeah, it is fun. And everybody's got that. I mean, Paul Sorvino, who plays the
Colonel Malcolm Gromit Spears.
Like, he's sort of famous for being that gruff, you know, hard-nosed Italian guy. But he is off the fucking chain on this. Like, he's definitely doing stuff that I'm like, maybe I should save this for what didn't work, but it does work.
Well, what works? You can say the thing that did work about it.
He's taking it to a fucking level of total insanity. But that's what the character is, right?
Yeah.
Like, it is appropriate.
And it plays
But,
in,
like,
it plays in that satisfaction of when it's like the big hurrah of destroying the factory.
That's right. But all his shit about communism and like,
Oh,
even his whole thing of like when Nicole shows up, he like grabs her by the arm and is like, you're the prize I get. And Mo is like, hey, slow down. You know, like we're not giving you her as a gift. Like, take it fucking easy, dude. But it's like everybody's sort of like almost okay with it. Mm-hmm. In the moment, at least. So there's just he's really playing this like it's insane Colonel thing for keeps.
It's on that level of, you could say, B-movie, comic book world, but I think what's more on point, like what I said earlier, was a kid playing with action figures.
Yeah.
I want to take my woman.
Right.
I hate the commies.
But remember the same sort of character in Evil Ed and how it was too cartoonish?
Yeah.
And it just was too like... I don't even know. It was almost uncomfortably...
Yeah, because it felt like the filmmakers, didn't distinguish themselves from those traits in some way.
Yeah.
Like they thought it was funny for the wrong reasons.
Right. Whereas it seems here they're just like, yeah, Paul, do your thing.
Yeah. He's just loving how over the top it is in every sense.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's the characters he writes too.
Yeah.
Like, and they're living up, those performances and the acting's living up to those characterizations.
I love that whole end sequence too, when they get into the radio station.
Oh yeah.
And like, just the like, it's kind of anticlimactic in a way to me, but this whole Nicole getting trapped in there with Charlie, and Charlie, you know, like, oh, twist, Charlie's infected. And then Jason getting in there, and then they're locked in there suddenly, somehow. Whatever, that's fine. But the whole thing of like going in through the window and climbing in and out, back and forth, and setting it on fire and using the sort of green screen like effect. It's just like everything. It's like the whole movie comes together in that one scene of like all of the kitschiness, all of the who gives a shit, the absurdity of it. Paul Sorvino's over there going, come on, soldier, to Jason, the kid. Like everything kind of coalesces to that moment. It's like perfect. You could just watch that scene and be like, oh yeah, I get what this movie is.
I know. That aspect that stood out to me in all that climactic showpiece, end piece, was when they're running away from it or whatever, and it seems like they should have a really good lead on it, but in that final like leap outside, it's all of a sudden like right behind them, like an explosion, like you know, they're leaping away from. It's like, okay, sure.
Oh man,
I'm pretty good on what worked. If you want to move on.
Yeah, I think I'm good. I mean, yeah, let's move on.
Okay, what did not work?
It's not ready yet.
Seems to work okay.
No, something important's missing.
What did not work?
I mean, I say this reluctantly, but Jason.
He's kind of a weird kid.
You can't get into a fucking, like, the tank of a fucking, like tanker. Huh? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, just the thought of getting in there, first of all, for me, because I'm claustrophobic, freaks me out. But also because my mom would fucking kill me if I even looked at that, like, the hole on that tank.
But you see how funny that is, Tim? Like, what did you just finish going
so
on and on about?
I know.
How none of that stuff matters.
I know, but I think I'm responding to the evocation. Is that a fucking word? How it made me feel. And I'm like, no, you can't do that. It's such a strong, maybe that's what works about it, but it's so strong.
You wanted Jason to get out of there.
No way. No, do not get in there. Of course you're going to get fucking locked in there.
That's what I said, and you were just like, well, the movie needs him to be in there.
Well, that is true. I was like, what? This is a pretty specific plot device.
Larry's got to get him in there. How else does he do it? I mean, you could have easily had him, like a soldier guard, like, No, I guess then they would have known he was there.
I think
I don't know.
I think that if I were making a movie with this conceit, I would really try, and the movies I would make would not be like this because I like realism. So in a realism version of this, if you have a character where you're like, that plot-wise you need to get him in there, how do we solve that problem? I would have the entrance to that thing. Let's say this is very involved, but let's just say that there's like a platform and Jason is like, oh fuck, I'm about to get caught and I cannot get caught. Oh look, there's a little like a manhole with a ladder going down. You climb down the ladder and you look around and you go, oh shit, I'm inside the tank, and before you can get out, the person above you has closed the thing. Like I can get behind that sort of conceit, but that's a different movie.
Yep.
Completely different movie.
Still interesting how you are putting this in the what did not work.
I know. I think it's, yeah, how do I describe that? It's the caveat being like, hypothetically, if I were making a movie, my version of this movie would live in a realism, I guess.
Right. And not be this movie or everything you loved about this movie.
Correct. It'd be a completely different movie.
But for whatever reason, that moment in particular is too much of whatever.
I mean, in terms of things not working, it's like, how do you even classify that for this type of movie? I mean, like, what are you picking apart?
For me, all I said was just, there's nothing in particular, but it's just not the kind of movie I feel like I need to rewatch like often, if at all, like can let a decade or two go by. And it's like, I love everything about it. I don't want to say appreciate, because that sounds like, oh, I appreciate it. But at the same time, like that's just not 100% my thing. Like, I'm not going to be the guy at the convention wearing the stuffed t-shirt. I'd pick other movies first.
Oh man, I might want a stuffed t-shirt.
But I definitely would be good friends with anyone who was,
Yeah.
Like, I can plug in. I love it. But if I was probably, when I saw it 15 years ago, buying like movie posters and all this stuff, it's not one that I felt compelled to collect or buy. And the same would stand true today. So I don't know. It's not even a what didn't work. I'm just trying to further like catalog it as if I only said good things, why it's not like a top movie.
Well, and I think part of this, to me, I guess I'm kind of repeating myself, I think, but when a movie eschews a lot of the sort of traditional metrics of making a good, in quotations, a good movie, and says that's not what we're doing. We're doing this other thing. You no longer can criticize it or pick it apart from that point of view.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of like an analogy.
Right. That's exactly why I say it's like for exactly what it is, I'm not.
Yeah. Like, it's like saying, this person is playing a toy saxophone and it's fucking great to watch, but why isn't it a real saxophone and why didn't they play jazz? Right, it's like, because that's not what the toy saxophone is for.
Yeah, you don't go to a desert and say it was too dry for you.
That's true. Well, willingly. Yeah. Willingly. I think when you get dropped there unwillingly,
yeah,
you're like, it's too dry.
This wasn't my thing. It's too dry. But I can get why that wouldn't be someone's thing. I like ocean, not desert.
Exactly. I would love, I don't know, what's the guy we like? Robert Ebert? No, the other one. Siskel.
Gene Siskel, Roger Ebert.
Either one of them.
I like both of them.
I would love to see if either of them reviewed this.
Yeah, Roger Ebert has a review. I read it.
Oh, cool. What does it say?
He wasn't as crazy about it. He thought like... Let's
what?
I'll look it up for things of note.
Okay, cool. Yeah, get it up. Beyond that, I mean, I guess.
Well, actually, no, this is the section where if we don't have much bad to say, we want to read someone else's.
Oh, yeah.
thing,
Okay,
right?
yeah. So
here's his review in the summation at his last paragraph, Roger Ebert. The stuff has moments when it comes alive because of the ingenuity of the actors and Cohen's willingness to have fun with his material. But the story doesn't work and the stuff isn't as interesting as, say, Flying Lizards. What we have here are a lot of nice touches in search of a movie. That's his end paragraph. His first paragraph, because that functions too. The stuff is a wildly ambitious movie that fails because it forgets to attend to its bottom line. Before you can make a clever, funny, satirical horror film, first you have to make a horror film. The groundwork in the stuff is so unconvincing that it sabotages all of the good things in the film, including a deadpan performance by Michael Moriarty. So I don't know. I don't see it the same way, Roger.
Yeah, me neither.
Love you, but...
Oh, man. Yeah, I really can't come up with anything that's worth saying that didn't work, you know? What, the fucking green screen stuff doesn't work? It's like...
Who cares?
Who gives a shit?
All right, well, then let's move on. Things of note.
Things of note!
This should be interesting.
In terms of the green screen thing, I think it's more noteworthy just as a curiosity of like why,
like how they
in
were...
certain places, I'm like, why did you need to do it? Like, I'm just curious, like why it was necessary.
Their method of the different effects.
I know that, like, I think most of the stuff effect that is when it appears to be a giant blob, you know, going through somewhere, I think that's model. You know, it's a miniature.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
and so I get it.
Buildings exploding at the end.
Totally miniature, right?
What's a thing of note aside, he was not happy with the look of the miniatures, the explosion at the end. So he only paid the effects company half, and then they brought that back as a lawsuit against him for not.
Wow. It's such an odd idea that Michael Cohen, that what's his first name? Fucking Larry, thank you, Jesus. That of all the people to scrutinize an effect.
Sorry, I meant that as a quick aside. What were you saying?
No, I mean, I just think that it's a curiosity as to when you use certain effects, like certain times that they put the actors in green screen. One in particular, when Jason is in the tanker, there are shots of him actually in whatever set built thing that was the tanker. And then there are shots of him that are green screen of him in that exact same set. And I don't understand why you do that. I mean, the stuff is coming in, but why couldn't you do it?
This kind of filmmaking, it would just be so fascinating to know the behind the scenes of exactly why they're deciding on what when it comes to things that you can't just literally just improvise in the moment. Like, you have to prepare for effects and build things. Yeah. So to know the methodology of their decision making it's kind of fascinating to think
just
about.
Curious, head scratchy a little bit, not in a bad way, but just like, I wonder why.
Yeah.
Beyond that, I don't know. Thing of note. Inside the movie, I don't have a whole lot. I mean, there's, actors in it and shit that I think are fun. And
well, the guy who played
noteworthy.
Chocolate Chip Charlie.
He's great.
He's great. But so originally...
Do you know who he is?
His name is Garrett Morris.
He was an SNL guy.
Yeah. SNL guy. I know he's had a bit part in Cooley High. That's kind of like the African-American graffiti. Yeah.
I think a lot of people may vaguely know him as Ant-Man in Saturday Night Live. Like he played Ant-Man.
But so
as
a more famous name that people might know though is Arsenio Hall. Now that's who Larry Cohen originally wanted to play Chocolate Chip Charlie.
Okay.
But ironically, New World Pictures wanted him to get a bigger star. So Arsenio Hall was a rising star, but not a big enough name for New World Pictures. So someone who is now arguably more famous is...
I bet that happens a lot.
Yeah.
It certainly happened in my career. Mm-hmm. I got passed over a lot for somebody who is, more established. And when I say a lot, I mean basically all the time.
So there's an interesting list of people who they credited as stuff commercial guest stars.
Oh.
Which I'm trying to remember what or when exactly that is or would have been. But apparently you have names like, it's like a list of like a dozen people here, but includes Brooke Adams, who played the girlfriend in the 1978 Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Let's see. Oh, Barbara Crampton and Jeffrey Combs from Reanimator and other horror films. And then Abe Vigoda, a character actor who Conan O'Brien made a recurring skit with him. And then last but not least, it says Anthony Perkins.
Yeah, I did not catch that.
Like, what?
Where is he?
I don't know. I wish we had more time. I wanted to figure.
You got to find some stills.
Yeah. See, Anthony Perkins was in the stuff. Like,
I guess I had one that I picked out, which was Eric Bogosian. He's one of the supermarket clerks who like tackles Jason when he's on his rampage. Eric Bogosian is this incredible playwright. He's known. Well, I know him because of all of the monologue books that he's written. He's
on Law and Order.
Yeah, he was on Law and Order for a long time. But he's an amazing monologue writer and performer. He performs all of it, that's his show. He'll do like 15 monologues in a row of mostly stuff that is very New York City centric. He's from there. I've done one. We did a night of Bogosian monologues 10 years ago or something like that. And my the one I did was The Recovering Male, and it's basically a guy in a quote unquote like an AA meeting, but it's just he's recovering from being a man in the world and talking about like basically pre-toxic masculinity being a thing. He's basically apologizing for being a toxically masculine man. Cool. And it's hilarious.
Seems
like his shit is really funny.
Just the kind of person who like it just pops up in Larry Cohen's cast of characters. Like,
oh yeah,
New York people.
Yep. Yeah, there's very clearly that sort of...
why don't you be in my movie?
Yeah. That insular world that exists in New York.
Hey, Eric, you free today?
Yeah, exactly. He's like, what do I need to do? I don't want any lines.
Yeah.
Larry's like, you just got to tackle this kid, dude. Put on this apron, tackle this kid. And yeah. Bogosian's like, I'm in. Get him.
I'm just curious what your thoughts are. I kind of talked about this. This is maybe too esoteric to dive into. So just tell me if there's anything in this. You'll tell me.
Okay.
But just that idea of like, kind of what I already brought up of like a movie. The approach to me always seems like you're trying to get the movie to be the movie as much as it can. And like that takes rewriting, it takes, feedbacking, it takes sort of all, but always you have that inner, like, do I love this or not as sort of your basis for if it's all working, if it's all clicking. But this kind of approach to filmmaking that Larry Cohen takes seems to be the antithesis to that kind of approach. Yet in doing so, he is making this, he's fully succeeding in making the movie the exact movie it's supposed to be and trying to be.
My initial thoughts are, a couple things. One is I think that this maybe specific to him or maybe just specific to this style of filmmaking, I think you have to, if you're going to go at it with this methodology, part of making it happen is that you are unwavering in trusting your gut and just being like, I know what I want. And you're not questioning yourself. I think that this, if you try and make this movie and you're the type of person who's kind of constantly scrutinizing your own decisions, you're fucked. So you can't be that person. You just got to go, this is what it is and I'm going. Full steam ahead. But also, what are you trying to accomplish? Like, what's your goal with it? Because I think we as filmmakers often get bogged down in the outer sort of implication of the thing we're making. Like, who's going to want to see it? Who's it for? Is it going to have mass appeal, or does it fit into a niche that will get bought up? And you start asking all these questions that are kind of not really a part of what the story or what the film is. They're secondary to that. And I think a lot of people get bogged down in that and then try to fit their idea into the framework of those externals. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that Larry would make these movies if he was bound by that thought process.
Yeah.
Because ostensibly these are not movies that anybody thinks will be successful,
right?
Like financially,
they just happen to be that exact perfect movie to play to his strengths. Because I think of always things in terms of, just to put in extremely broad strokes, of like introverted tendencies versus extroverted tendencies, that like introverts excel when taking extroverted traits on, and vice versa. Extroverts excel when taking introverted traits on, which I think Larry Cohen strikes me as the more, and again, super broad stroke. I don't believe in pure introverts, extroverts thing.
I'd have to really think about
broad strokes,
how I define that. Anyway.
Okay, but Larry Cohen is like, how he is in his interviews, brash, is, always talking kind of thing, more typically extroverted in that sense. But I see there's just enough in his development in the screenplay, as far as like we've talked about these ideas. He's hitting these points like in the script. It's not like he's totally, like, he may come up with a lot on the spot or whatever, but there's just enough of him measuring those extroverted, like, improvisatory tendencies with things that took thought and deliberation.
I think it's instinct.
Yeah.
I think that, some people have good instincts in relation to their vision. Mm-hmm. And, we know as directors, there are definitely times when you're on the set and a thing is happening that is different than how you envisioned it. But your instinct says, oh no, I can make that work, or that's better. And you're putting your ego aside a little bit about trying to be a perfectionist of, it has to be the thing that you wanted. I don't think Larry suffers from that.
Yeah.
I think he seems to be very open to the possibilities, and then very good at trusting his instinct in knowing when a thing has happened that is workable or fits into a general vision that he has.
I think that's why this fascinates me, because it does all come down to instinct at any given moment, because you can use that exact same argument of like, let's take someone, the very specific way, like David Lynch saying,
David Fincher,
David Fincher, this doing it this specific way. That is also like following your instinct to say,
that's right.
Even though it could feel like I'm not putting my ego aside, this is what it has to be.
Yeah. And then that just comes down to where you land in your vision of the film. Mm-hmm. Like, if your vision allows for looseness and play, and I mean play, like,
right.
not
it's the broader approach that has a big, I think, a lot does stem from what kind of movie is this, and what is the approach we're taking that's appropriate for it, and sticking with that decision.
Yeah, and you see it in the content too, right? Like, David Fincher's movies are, they're very, God, how would you even describe this? They're so specific, like, every mark is so specific, every frame is so fucking, like, measured. Everything is measured.
Yeah.
And that's good for those movies, because a lot of the stories are about people who are battling against how measured they are in their lives. Mm-hmm. And so that's appropriate. Whereas Larry's stuff is doing a totally different thing. Right? It doesn't need to be measured in that same way, and therefore you have play and you have a looseness to it, and it services the story.
Yeah.
So that's my answer.
Great.
I mean, that's the same as with David Lynch. It's like, he's like, fuck, I'm doing this thing.
Yeah. It's great.
Get the fuck out of here. Don't tell me not to do that.
Fascinating, I think, to think about.
It's cool because I think, these are all directors that, I would say Nick Refn is sort of in that realm too, where it's like they are unwavering in their doing their thing. Mm-hmm. And I really like that. And the results, they're different movies, they're different styles and whatever, but like, there's really, to me, something to be said about seeing something that a director was like, I'm going for it.
Yeah. I think that's kind of the only way
to
do it.
Cool, dude.
Great. And the very last thing I had was you look up this movie on Giphy. There's some good, surprising amount of GIFs.
Oh my God.
I sent Tim one, and I was just excited to have more than 3 to pick from.
Yeah. That's cool.
There you go.
I will say that this, in the Wikipedia, when it says see also, every movie that they list is amazing. Like
The Thing, The Fly, The Blob, Society, Body Snatchers, The Thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's just great, right? It's like that. Yeah, this is in that realm, and these are movies that I love. So it's like, yeah, this...
All they're all like the remakes of themselves, because it's either a Thing movie or a Body Snatchers movie or The Blob, but then in the middle of them is Society.
That's true, and it's a remake of itself in a weird way, right? It's just, what the fuck is going on? Yeah.
All right, so if we're done with Larry Cohen's The Stuff, then let's move on to our RecommenDEADtions.
Well, so did I say I got Disney Plus and all that came out? I don't know if I mentioned it before, but whatever. I've been just going through it, and came across a movie from my childhood that I quite liked. My brother and I would watch it, called The Black Hole. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I haven't watched it in 20 years, probably, at least. It has Anthony Perkins, which is nice. It also has Robert Forster as the lead.
Cool. They would just played it at the New Beverly. They were doing a Robert Forster tribute.
Yeah. I mean, I personally didn't know Robert Forster, but he has some connection to Rochester, New York. I don't think he was from there, but he maybe lived there for a period. I can't remember. I ran into him there at Kodak. Kodak is from Rochester. That's where Kodak was built. And I was at some film something or other in Rochester, and Robert Forster was the speaker. I was like, oh shit, cool. I do know people who have worked with him and have really, really loved him, as they were really bummed when he passed away. And but the movie Black Hole is fun and weird and plotting and pretty fucking scary at times.
Cool. It's always intrigued me. I haven't seen it.
There's some robot shit in there that it traumatized me. So since you haven't seen it, I will not spoil that.
I've been wanting to watch it. So.
It's from I don't even remember, 79 or something, I think.
Perfect. That's Tim's sweet spot era, right?
That's why I like it so much. Shit. Yeah, it's a fun one. So that's mine.
Since we were talking about marketing and the power of branding and marketing, and especially in food, I thought to recommend Dead, the documentary. It's been getting a lot of talk. The Game Changers, where I'm not just trying to mention it as vegan propaganda, because that's what it gets into.
Wow.
As far as, but it's out of all films that you'd want to group that way. This one actually was a fun, engaging movie that, rather than just sort of having that tone of everything is horrible and here are all the horrible things, this takes more the tone of just using people who are working out and sort of positive about health and all that, and it seems just more a kind of objective exploration versus trying to necessarily as I used this word before, proselytize to.
Yeah.
But it was very just sort of like takes you through an interesting story of people learning about the science behind the way we eat and live.
I think that stuff's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think
I've gone down those rabbit holes for sure.
I think you'd enjoy it. The director's done other good. Oh yeah, he did The Cove. It's that.
Oh sure,
that filmmaker.
Yeah, I never watched that because I didn't want to just be sad. I'm already sad enough.
But Tim, what did the stuff teach us?
Oh, you don't fill that emptiness with sadness.
Fill it with the truth.
Oh, God, the truth.
Yeah.
All right, I'll do my best.
Whoa, that's actually the slogan here for the Game Changers. Armed with the truth. As it's like a flexing muscle.
Ooh.
Yeah, there you go. Check it out.
Cool.
All right. Now we're going to figure out next week's film.
Oh,
My turn to pull from the hat.
What could it be?
What could it be? What could it be? It shall be The Stepfather from 1987.
Whoa.
This was recommended to us by my friend Pam, who I hope will now listen in because we're talking about a movie she told us to watch.
Stepfather.
I've heard about it outside of her too. I've been wanting to see it.
Nice. By the way, one last little addendum to our episode. I've been cleaning up our Gmail and looking through it. There's a bunch of Reddit messages.
Those could be old ones from when I was actually talking to people. Like I go on our Reddit often enough.
So, but there are a bunch of recommendations for us to listen to.
Really?
I mean, there's like 2 or 3 at least. One of them is Cherry Falls.
Oh, yeah. No, I've already talked. Yeah.
Okay.
These are all discussions I've been a part of. They aren't just people.
Good. All right. I just want to make sure that we were on
That's
on
on
board
our
with
list.
that shit.
It's any actual email.
Okay, cool.
That we have to,
right.
to take care of it.
Well, I'm going to try and maybe dig into these and like start talking to people and look at these conversations some more and see if we can. I mean, we've got lots of movies left. We're not going to run out anytime soon, but I would like to.
We got to print. I mean, it's soon. We should print out the new list we haven't printed. We got a bunch queued up.
Yeah. Cool, dude.
But until then, we gotta you should join us for The Stepfather next week. Yeah. Until then, you can find us at dismemberinghorror.com. Tim just mentioned our email. He's checking it now. Mm-hmm. Checking it twice.
I've added it to my computer's mail.
Oh, great.
Part. So I see it if something comes up.
What is the address?
dismemberinghorror@gmail.com.
Simple enough, folks. We'd appreciate any positive iTunes review. Mm-hmm. That helps us out. And what helps us out just as much, tell a friend.
You should tell a friend. Mm-hmm. Or,
the friend that you talk to about horror movies like this. For whenever you don't have each other, you always got Ryan and Tim.
That's right. We'll always be here.
Yep.
Always.
Yep. A click away, folks. A click or two away. I think that's it. So in closing, thank you so much for listening.
And we will see you next time.
Goodbye.